Welcome. The Samisch, or 3f3 after d4, knight f6, c4, g6, now f3, this can be quite an annoying opening to face, whether you're a Grunfeld player or a King's Indian defense player. And the reason is that this opening is quite different from the rest of the lines that we typically face. With f3, white is immediately trying to play e4 and gain a massive center, and they often have ideas of playing moves like h4, bishop e3, queen d2, knight c3, castling long and simply attacking us. And this is really not a plan you face in other openings, so it can be pretty tricky to deal with. But in this video, I'm going to show you a rare way to deal with this that actually was invented by Fabiano Caruana and played in the Candidates 2016, where he got a draw with the black pieces against Anish Giri. So the line is, let me start out by showing you that game. d5, contesting the center. e4, knight b6, knight c3, bishop g7, queen d2, and now we play the move e5, hitting at white's center. Now this may look a little weird because we're blocking in our own bishop. However, what we're going to do is play c6 now. And now we're going to chip away at this white center. h4 takes, and now knight a6. And the knight is trying to jump to b4 and put more pressure on this d5 pawn. h5. So this is a classic thing. There's a very common maxim that goes, if one side is attacking on the side of the board, which is what white is doing here, pushing this pawn, trying to checkmate the black king, then you should strike back in the center of the board. And that's exactly what Fabiano did. Knight b4, hg6, and now Fabiano played a move that is probably pretty surprising. He played bishop f5. Okay, so why bishop f5? Well, first of all, this pawn, it may look like you can take it, but the thing is now after bishop g5, it's pretty difficult because the black queen is hit. And let's say you go back, then gf7, and actually the king has to take because the rook cannot take because the queen would be undefended. And let's say that you move the queen. Now the queen is undefended again, and therefore you can use this pin to simply win the knight. Bishop e6, rook d1, and white picks up the knight. So black can't really take, and if black takes here, now that's opening up the h file for white, so that's a big mistake. So it's better to play bishop f5. And now, even though you give up this pawn, white's pawn is actually kind of acting as a shield for the black king because it's preventing this rook from getting an attack. So now rook d1, and this was an important moment in the game. Black played knight c2, and I'll just show you how the game continued. Knight c2, king f2 takes, bishop d7. That's a bit of an odd move, but the idea is to play f5. It's probably not the best move, though. It probably would have been better to play bishop here and then bishop g6 and then play d5, but bishop d7, f5, and we get this very double-edged position. Black has two bishops. White's king is in the center. Black's king is also weak. White is up two pawns, but right now it doesn't necessarily matter that much. I think objectively, this position, if you turn on the computer, this position is simply lost for black objectively. However, it actually, in a practical game, this is quite interesting. And even Anish Giri, who's one of the top 5, maybe at the time, in the top 10 certainly, I'm not sure, but habitually one of the top 5 or 10 players in the world, even he was not able to figure out how to win this position with white. So I wouldn't be too afraid about going to this against most opponents unless you're facing titled players. If you're in, let's say, under 2,000 range or even a bit above 2,000, you should feel completely comfortable playing this kind of position. And we got this. And Okay, eventually white sort of messed up, and the game ended up in a perpetual draw eventually. So, okay, so knight c2, this is one option. But there's actually another idea that's very interesting, which is bishop c2, rook c1, and then bishop g6. And what's the point of this? The point is simply we're renewing the attack on the d5 pawn. So the game could end in a draw with rook d1, bishop c2, rook c1, and then bishop back, and then we can just repeat. Or white could try another idea, like say bishop c5, knight 6 d5, and then, okay, we're giving up the exchange here. Again, objectively, this is very, very bad for black. However, this is not so easy, and actually it was a few years ago computers were actually saying this position was, let's say, plus 0.5. So computers just a few years ago basically said this position is fine for black. Now computers are giving a huge advantage for white. So that tells you, yes, this position, mathematically speaking, it's bad. However, it still should be pretty playable. Probably objectively the best move to play here is rook c8. And if we go into my file, rook c8, now king f2. Now actually, which king f2 is a very natural move, by the way. Now bishop c2, rook c1, bishop g6, this is very strong. And now actually the position is already simply equal because bishop c5 is not an idea here in this position. So white doesn't really, probably white's best move is something like bishop g5, bishop h6, but this is fine for black. And g3, then we could even get another repetition here. But yes, best is bishop h6, takes, queen takes, f6, and now something like this. So f6, rook f7, you're defending along the 7th rank. And again, this position is better for white. However, it's still a game. This is a very playable position. According to the computer, this is about plus 0.8. So this is definitely possible for black to go for. So the thing is, though, why would you go for this opening? The reason is because even though objectively, if white plays well, then you'll get a worse position. Even in that case, it's still playable. I would definitely recommend, I would say these lines, bishop c2, yes, this is playable. However, objectively, it is quite bad. So you can go for this, but I would prefer going for rook to c8 because this also is very, like, it would be easy for white to just play a move like king f2 and just give away their advantage. And even if white finds all these moves, then it's still completely playable. So my recommendation is definitely to go rook c8 if white goes for this line. But the reason why to go for this line, even if objectively white is better, is because this line is extremely tricky. Most white players are not going to be familiar with it, and you may simply score a lot of quick wins because, okay, like for this position, for instance, I would say after bishop h6, we can say clearly white is a bit better. The thing is, this is move 16, so white has to know 16 moves of theory to get to this position, and this is a rare plan. So unless you're playing like an IM or higher, then they're probably not even going to know about this, and the chances of them making all these accurate moves are pretty low. And I can say this because I've played this opening quite a few times, even against master level opponents, and done quite well. I've never had anybody actually get an advantage against me out the opening against this line. So if we look at earlier on, it's very easy for white to mess up here, and I can give an example with a game that I played against Rochelle Wu. Now, she's a very talented young American player. This game happened at the Bay Area International 2019. Back then, she was already almost 2,300 USCF. Of course, now she's already a FIDE master. And this game, again, we had the Samisch. Let me just clear those annotations. So we have the Samisch, we have this exact line that I was just telling you about. And yeah, there are a couple other interesting things. Castle here is not very good. This was actually played against me in the Amateur Team East 2017, yes, by a player who was about 2,000 USDF. And this is simply not very good because now we can just take, and White's big center is gone now. And we don't have to trade, actually. We could make some other moves, but after this already, Black is just equal. Black is doing completely fine here. Rook d1, bishop e6. Black does not have a single weakness in the position, and is just completely equal. And another bad move would be d5, and then after this, then now actually Black is already better because of the lead in development. So d5 is of course the best move, but White can actually go wrong already there. So now c6, h4, we saw this already. And now this is where things started getting weird, is White played the move a3. So this gives you an idea of how tricky this opening is, because, okay, yes, if White plays h5 and then plays perfectly, they can get an advantage, but most players, even a 2300 player, she doesn't know about this line, and so knight b4 looks kind of scary, so she's like, I'll just stop it with a3. But now we're already equal here. So a3, and then I played knight c7. This may not be the best move objectively. Rook d1, queen d6, blocking the pawn. And yeah, this is not really the best plan that I could have played. And now White makes the move queen f2, and this is really the start of a very bad plan, because White's idea, of course, is threatening bishop c5 and then going to win the exchange. But the thing is that Black's dark squared bishop is already very strong. If you look at the dark squares for White, these squares are basically like Swiss cheese. There are a lot of holes. And so by giving up White's dark squared bishop, they're actually putting themselves in a pretty difficult position. So White's bishop actually is worth as much as my rook here. So I was quite happy to sacrifice it. I take this pawn. So that's important because now I'm getting control in the center. And yeah, already this position, according to the computer, is basically winning for me, because I have center control. My bishop is about to, my dark square bishop is about to wreak havoc. And then once my other pieces come into the game, White is in big trouble, not to mention White's king has nowhere good to go. So h4, h5, bishop c5, queen h4. That was a serious mistake. It would have been better to play queen d2 and then queen h6. But queen h4 is what happened. hg, bishop takes. Yeah, the reason is my bishop is actually quite good here on g6. Just defends everything. So now White's attack is completely gone, basically. In the other line, after this, okay, White still has some attack, and actually I have to move my knight back to defend. So in this version, though, White just has nothing. Knight e2. And I will say it was not actually so easy to figure out how to beat her, but this was, I found some nice tactics ultimately. So the best move here would have been bishop b6 and just trading, but that's not really that natural, because the reason this is good is knight e4, queen c6, and then my queen is just going to come in. And this is minus 10 according to the computer. But yeah, going back with the bishop and then moving your queen back, it doesn't look that natural to a human. So I played knight c2, bishop e3, And I remember I was pretty annoyed actually that it wasn't checkmate yet. But I played knight d4, takes. Now queen c6. I could have actually played, yeah, it's also interesting. Queen c2 would have been a serious mistake. It looks like this is just winning because queen c1 checkmate. But actually now queen d8 and queen f6 would be a perpetual. So that's a strong idea that white has here. But yeah, long term, of course, white is just getting checkmate. I brought the queen over here now. So now I'm threatening to go to g3. Okay, black stops that, but now I check here. And this knight b3 actually is a serious mistake. What I should have done, and this didn't occur to me, was bishop b1. And this is super strong because now the queen is coming to c2 here. And if knight e4 to try to establish that pattern again, then just bishop e4. So I must admit I missed that bishop b1 move. Knight b3, yeah, it's a mistake. And then h5. And yeah, this is a serious misplay by me because white could have actually sacked the exchange, knight e2, king f2. Or not king f2, but whoops, queen g6 is what I meant. And then, yeah, white is actually kind of safe here. So this position is actually only equal. So I did misplay this attack quite a bit. But she missed her chance to sack the exchange. She played knight e4, which was a big mistake. And now my queen is entering. And yeah, now my knight is just coming to d4, or in this case c1, and it's just over. But if she hadn't blundered the queen to the fork, it would have been over anyway. After knight comes to d4, queen f2, and this position is just hopeless for white. So this is an example of how, against this opening, a 2300 USCF player simply, first of all, didn't go for the attack because she was justifiably scared by my plan. And so she played a passive move, allowing me to get a good position. And then she did this, and she's not the only player to go for something like this, trying to win the exchange. And I think the other game I won even easier, just a checkmate in under 25 moves against a 2100 player. Maybe I'll upload that and upload a video of that game later. But it's very easy for white to go wrong by doing that plan because it looks great like you're just winning an exchange, but actually black is happy to give up that exchange. So again, key things to remember are this line, we go d5, we go to b6, we attack the center with e5 and then c6, and then we put our knight to b4 and bishop f5. And the important thing here is to not play knight c2 like Fabiano played, or bishop c2, but play rook c8. And now, okay, this position, it's a double-edged position. Again, white can easily go wrong here with the king in the center. But this is quite a tricky line, and I think you should have quite a bit of success playing this against white players. Most of them aren't even going to go into these lines, and you'll probably just get in equal position. So thanks for watching this video. Like and subscribe. Ask any questions in the comments if you have any, and I'll see you again soon.